If you or a family member have been hurt because of the careless actions of another person, call Walker, Texas Lawyer. They'll work to get you the financial compensation and justice you deserve. They have 40 years of experience, and you don't pay unless you win. Call 713-881-9653 today for a consultation or go to walkertexaslawyer.com.
Oh, Brad, what have you done now?
Broadcasting live from Houston, Texas, and around the world. TV host, best-selling author, and radio personality Brad Gilmore brings you a collection of conversations with stars from movies.
Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, how are you?
The legendary Mr. Christopher Lloyd. Christopher, how we doing?
I'm doing good. Great introduction.
Television.
Jimmy Fallon joins us this morning. Jimmy, how you doing, my friend?
Good morning. Thank you so much, Brad, for having me. I appreciate this, bud.
Kelly Ripa.
Brad, thank you for having me.
Comedy.
Jay Leno joins us. Jay, how you doing?
Hey, Brad, what's going on?
Gabriel Fluffy Iglesias.
Good morning.
Music.
Lola Monroe.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The legendary frontman of AC/DC, Brian Johnson, joins us right now. Brian, how you doing?
Good morning, Brad. What looking to talk, you me funny lad.
Grammy Award winner Maya joins us.
How are you?
And more. This is The Collection. Now your host, The Boat, Brad Gilmore.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of The Collection. My name is The Boat, Brad Gilmore, and I am excited for my guest today, Rudy Pankow, who you know from The Outer Banks, the OBX show on Netflix. And if you haven't never seen Outer Banks, if you like the movies that I like, you know, the Back to the Futures, the Indiana Joneses, the Goonies, that vibe, you'll enjoy Outer Banks. It has been classified as sexy Scooby-Doo, which makes me laugh, but it definitely has that Goonies vibe of a treasure hunt with a bunch of young kids getting into mischief, but it's like the dial's cranked up a little bit on the stakes and the action. Nevertheless, Outer Banks is great, and Rudy plays this character JJ on it. And I talked to him about it in the interview. When I saw JJ, I said, my wife is going to love this guy. And he is one of the most beloved characters on the entire show of the OBX. And now Rudy is transitioning into some feature films as well. He's got a new movie, The Crusades, that is out right now. You can get it on digital. You can see it in select theaters. So go find it in a theater if it's near you, because there's nothing like a movie experience, guys. You got to go see these things the way that they are meant to be seen. I sound like a commercial at Cinemark, but I mean it. But without further ado, let's get to my interview with Rudy Pankow, talking about his new movie, Crusades, as well as OBX. Here it is right now on The Collection. And he's here to join us to talk about The Crusades, the new movie that's day and date on July 7th. And one of the stars is here with us. Rudy, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing dandy, man. Thank you for having me.
Hey, man, let's talk about The Crusades. I mean, here we are. You got a feature film out in theaters. People can see it, obviously, on demand as well. Tell people about what The Crusades is and what it's all about.
Yeah, Crusades is about an all-boys school that gets merged with another all-boys school, and that doesn't really go very well. And so the movie's kind of about how there's a little band of brothers that don't want it to happen, and for several reasons, and my character in it has a little bit of an absurd reason. He might have a little crush on his teacher, and he doesn't want one of those guys to come between him and his teacher. So he kind of has some interesting, let's just say, motivations behind what he's trying to do throughout the entire film. But it's a funny and comedic, and it's actually a dramedy. It takes a little turn at the end. So I hope everyone can make it through the film to see the little twist.
So yeah, man. I mean, look, that sounds like a movie that's right up my alley. Everybody loves a good comedy. For you, when you read the script, or I guess the better question would be, how did this project land on your radar? Was this something that they called and said, "Hey, we want you in it," or is it something that you had your eye on for a little while when you heard about the script being out there? How did you kind of get it on your radar?
Yeah, so this is the very first film I did. kind of in between seasons of The Outer Banks, and this was I shot this over 2 years ago, so it's been a minute. And it kind of just plopped right on my desk, and was like, "Hey, they want you for this role. Would you read it?" And I just read the script, and to be honest, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. This is funny." And then I met with the team and the guys that were shooting it. It seemed really legit and super fun, and I was like, "Hell yeah!" And then it just turned into a really fun time, and it was a really great experience just working with everyone on that set.
Well, and the thing is about Outer Banks is there's such a great chemistry between the cast, and I actually wanted to ask you about that because I feel like with a movie like Crusades, you have to develop a chemistry, but as you said, kind of shooting it in between seasons of Outer Banks, you don't have maybe as much time on a movie set as you would on a television show to cultivate that chemistry. How did you cultivate your chemistry with your fellow actors in such a short time when shooting this movie between seasons?
Yeah, Crusades is just, it was a adrenaline, just to say the least. It just kind of was like we all were like, let's just do this. And I think that was kind of what I read in the script, is that everyone was just hands down to play their role. I think one of the characters, I even kind of just like played a little joke with him and texted him as one of my character's names, and he didn't know who it was. It was me, but I was texting him as the character for a second. I came later, like the next day, that I told him it was me, but I was just kind of like, for the first time, just kind of meeting him, I was texting him and a number that he didn't know. it was Leo Greco. So that was hilarious, and everyone kind of just gelled, and it was a very lightweight set, and we just kind of were like, let's do this, and everyone was down too. So that's honestly, sometimes it's not in your control to have amazing chemistry, but this time, it worked. Everything worked just great.
I have a question for you, mainly on process, because you were just talking about texting another one of your castmates as the character that you're playing in the movie. What is the process though? Because so like recently, I've been on this. Go ahead. You have something to say?
No, I was just gonna say that's not a part of the process. That was just a little joke on the guy, because we were all just joking around. He's the antagonist of the film, so we were just kind of messing with him just to have a little fun with him. And I've heard that he was a funny dude, so I was like, all right, let's play around. That is definitely not part of the process.
No.
That is just a little funny.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. But what I was gonna say is, because they had the new Indiana Jones movie come out, and I've been watching stuff about all the makings of the Indiana Jones films, and Sean Connery, who was in the third one, who played Harrison Ford's father, when he came to set with the script, Steven Spielberg said he had all these notes that he had notated on the character and made up backstories about it and tried to really figure it out. What is your process? Do you look in, whether it's Crusades or whether it's Outer Banks and things like that, do you look at the characters specifically and try to isolate them and come up with a log line and a backstory of your own and notate the script? Or how do you dive into that character?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, first of all, it really depends on what is demanded of the character in the script. Comedies are different. Comedies, you kind of on the day need to find the comedy. And which sounds weird, but like a lot of comedy comes from the accident and the spontaneous moment and your instinct to do something funny, which is hard. Which I think honestly, which is why comedy, I think, for me, is one of the hardest things to do, because it's not planned, it's not thought about. But what my process is, and usually with dramas and plays and working on playwrights like Arthur Miller or Clifford Odessa's plays, is that you do a backstory if you have a question and it's not in the play. You do all the sensory work about like what his life has been before this play was written, or this scene, or depending on the character I played in Chocolate Lizards, I made a whole entire backstory for him and getting into Harvard, and how it wasn't necessarily him pushing, it was his father pushing, and how does that play out. So absolutely, it's all part of the process, is having your own backstory, your notes, your sensory work, what are his insecurities, and stuff like that. And then you can chalk up your script with notes and ways he could talk and stuff like that.
You hit on something interesting there about the comedies. You have to find it on the day, and I agree with you. Comedy is such a hard thing to nail because it's so much about timing and like we talked about earlier, the chemistry between the people in the scene at the moment. When you shoot a film like Crusades, where there's heavy comedy, and you're trying to find it on the day, does that mean multiple takes? Does that mean, hey, you know what? This script, it reads funny, but man, it'd be really great if we did it this way, or let me improv a little bit on the day. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was something that Leo Milano is the director, and I think that was something that he played in that was very interesting. He kind of like, you would think he was going to go the comedy route, and then he shot it in a way that's like very dramatic, where it's actually like very slow moving camera and like on like dollies and stuff. And so it's a very contrasty between these comedic moments that are being happened in improv while also like in a long take on a dolly, and it's a weird contrast. I don't know if you think about what's the comedy I was gonna say the other guys, but like everything is just kind of fast. Everything's cut very quickly, sure. And this doesn't cut very quickly. So it's an interesting contrast between how it's shot. I will say that as well.
Oh, man, Crusades out in theaters July 7th, day and date release as well. So make sure you check out the film. A couple more questions for you here, Rudy, because you talked about all the character work that you do leading up to a project, mainly something even like Outer Banks, where you know you're going to play a character for multiple times. I will say, I recently got into Outer Banks. And this is probably maybe a month or so ago. I streamed all of them when the new season came out. I said, man, this is so much fun. It's right up my alley. I love a treasure hunt. I love the Goonies feel of it. I'm sure you've heard that a lot. One of the things, though, that really stuck out to me early on, there was an episode where your character, JJ, by the way, when I saw JJ, I texted my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to not watch this show anymore until you get back from vacation because you're going to love JJ. I wanted to experience that with her. And it's true. You're her favorite character on the show. But when the thing I was going to say is there was a scene I think it's season 1, where you're playing a waiter at a like I think it's midsummer party or something like that. And what really stuck out to me about your craft, man, and why I thought you killed that is because you had to hit these 3 moments with 3 completely different characters, all with 3 different dynamics, all within like the span of a couple of minutes. And I thought you pulled it off effortlessly. Do you remember, you know the scene I'm talking about? Do you remember kind of maybe the challenges of that scene?
Yeah, I do remember that day. There was a lot of, I think that I had the most extras that day as well. And like leading through them was fun. Luckily, I had a shit ton of buster work under my belt. So I knew, I knew how to keep a cup on a tray, which actually did kind of help.
Yeah, absolutely, man. When did you realize that show had gone to like kind of the next level, to where, hey, this was just something that we shot, in the Outer Banks at one point, and then now, man, I saw a Pogue Life bumper sticker on the freeway here in Houston. Like, there's a culture around the show. When did you realize it took it to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, that still is a little bit of a recent discovery for me as well. Like, because like we shot it, came out during COVID, shot the second season during COVID, and it's still kind of like you're realizing just what the scope of the show is. So I think it's still kind of going on right now. How much I'm realizing how much Outer Banks is, what reach Outer Banks is doing. But at the same time, super super dope to hear that, man. It is kind of crazy to hear that's in Houston, bumper sticker, Pogue Life. That is ridiculous.
Yeah, man, you never know. Well, hey, I hope all the Pogues, I hope all the fans of Outer Banks and even fans of comedy and movies in general go out and check out the Crusades. It's going to be day and date release in theaters July 7th. Rudy, man, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope everyone sees this movie and supports it, man. And, just congratulations on all your success and your incredible career, man. The star is still on the rise, and I'm sure it's not the first or last time we'll be talking to each other.
Awesome, man. Thank you for having me.
Hurry up, tape running out.